Hello and welcome to the trade setup. In this video we are looking at Intel. It is time for another update and I'm here today to provide you one of the best opportunities that could occur within the very near term within the entire stock market, probably, maybe even outside of the stock market itself. And this is considering a mix of potential and probability for success of the structure of the actual trade setup that I'm here to provide today. Now, for context, within the larger structure, we have drawn on the chart one of the simpler interpretations that could be tracked. It doesn't really matter exactly what count we would track in this movement to the upside. Within all of them, we expect at least another wave to the upside to succeed in forming, and within most of them, I would prefer to form an entire 5-wave pattern. Now, I will even say this is probably not my preferred interpretation from the larger time frame perspective, but this is not my focus anyway. I am focused within the smaller time frame here, where we have an initial 5-wave move to the upside, where we are looking at a 3-wave correction into the last level of support, from which point we succeeded in forming another initial 5-wave move to the upside within a smaller time frame. Now, this has great potential, don't get me wrong, but it's the mix of the probabilities within this equation that makes it all the much more interesting, because it is a double 1-2-1-2 setup and we have held our area of support. We are looking for the next wave 2 correction for a position for the accumulation area to start for us. And for context, in the bear case for this structure, for this expectation, we are looking at a $102 Intel. That is our bearish case. The 100% extension of a wave A in this area, that would be the ideal target for a wave C. It would be very easily expected to reach that level if it succeeds in building the next wave to the upside. Now, of course, I cannot guarantee that it will work out and everyone should do their own research, but based on the structure and the market sentiment that I can identify building up on it, I am looking for an ideal target to be around the $200 level for this as a wave 3 to the upside, and there are bullish interpretations that would allow this to be far exceeded, where this would be a wave 3 unfolding within this area, which could make all of this to look like a puny 1-2 setup, It could be the beginning of an extremely strong uptrend. Now, of course, that is an extremely bullish case, but the ideal target for such an expectation would probably be around the area of, let's say, the 9K level, the 9 to 10K level. Just for context, don't expect this to form overnight. This could easily take several decades, maybe even a century to build, but this is the long-term prognostics in the scenario of this being a 1-2 setup. Doesn't need to happen. We could be looking indeed at a 5th wave the same way we have here drawn on the chart, in which case, we would be looking only at a $200 Intel within this next wave to the upside. And I say only, although the $200 Intel is quite unrealistic, especially if you were to tell that to someone who was living in the period of having Intel in this gruesome correction that has taken already 5 years at around the $17-18 area, Most people during that period wouldn't believe that Intel would even be expected to reach the $200 level, possibly considering even a failure for the entire company, as it wasn't in a very good situation. Now, nonetheless, we have here our large area of support. It held, it created a nice reaction to the upside. We are now above it, and we have formed an initial additional 5-wave move to the upside, for which we can track an additional area of support for another 1-2 setup within this area, where we have the entire zone of support inside the larger area of support at the levels between the $35.5 down to the $22.5 at the 78.6% retracement. Now, this is certainly the type of correction that I wouldn't have any strong expectations to form a deep retracement. Oftentimes, within some of the more bullish cases, within the wave 2, we don't even succeed in reaching the first level of support, But in my humble opinion, I believe that is where our accumulation area should start. Yeah, the $35.5 level, very much in line with our larger area of support. And the only reason we are really tracking this within a yellow interpretation is that we want to keep the large area of support here on the chart as well for the visibility of the additional aid that it provides in creating reactions to the upside. Yeah, these levels can still prove relevant, and we already see as we were pushing to higher levels within this structure, we have formed a couple of lows at this first line of support for the blue structure. Now, this is an extremely high quality structure in my opinion, but of course below the $22.5 it starts to look quite bad. Yeah, this is the last level of support which we really do not want to see broken, and sure, a brief break below it would not cause an issue, but a sustained break below this last level of support would strongly suggest rather that we will break even the larger area of support in blue, and that we will even likely invalidate the entire structure. Now, currently we are even struggling to get to this area of support, and this is assuming we have a top within a wave 1, which at this point, since we are still consolidating at such high levels, would still be able to very easily extend. Now, I want to make it absolutely clear that I'm not promoting positions on this chart. It's just my opinion, my personal belief that this is an amazing opportunity. And if you want to get access to our monthly top picks, where we identify for you high quality structures and high quality stocks that we consider can deliver on these promises for these areas of support, you can check out our channel newsletter. The link for sign up is in the description and it is completely free. You will get the list and you will be able to follow it along with us on YouTube. And we are sending out our first list at the end of this week, and we have quite a few strong contenders there that actually promise a lot in terms of their structure, considering a mix of probabilities to succeed and the potential, the actual return that is expected to come out of these opportunities. Now, let's get back to the chart. So here we are looking for a wave 2 correction, and we would typically expect this to form within an ABC structure. That is the most common outcome, although it is not a must. Other types of corrections are possible, but what is certain is that within a wave 2, we expect a 3-wave pattern. If we see a different structure unfold within this area, such as a 5-wave movement to the downside, it would rather be strongly suggested to us that we should be watching out for a 3-wave correction, and then at the very least another 5-wave move to the downside, as within a correction, we are looking for only 3 waves to consider it complete. Yeah, we don't want to see the wave 4 and the 5th wave occur as well. Now, sure, extensions are possible, and we might be looking at this correction to take a bit longer than just a direct push into this area of support. It could form an extension, but that's not really a problem. We are more focused on the levels, not necessarily the timeline on how long it will take for this movement, for this correction to unfold. Yeah, already on the larger time frame, we see this correction has taken like what, nearly 5 years? Yeah, about 5 years. So no promises on when it is expected to even reach this area of support, but this is our main area of accumulation. Yeah, once again, the accumulation zone for me starts at the $35.5 level, and I wouldn't be waiting for a deep retracement. I know I'm repeating myself, but I want this to be clearly understood. We could form a similar structure with what we formed on the micron chart, where we didn't even reach the area of support before extending into an extremely strong and aggressive wave 3 to the upside. Now, again, this is all under the assumption that we have a top within this wave 1, which I cannot guarantee at this point because we are still holding internal levels of support, and of course there are even more possibilities for this structure to push to higher prices than what we have been tracking within this green structure. Yeah, we have here the levels down to the $41.4 for a potential wave 4 correction. We would then expect a 5th wave, and if we build this structure, I would instead need to look yet for another internal correction and another extension, as within this wave 5 we are looking for an ABC structure, since within the wave 1 we are looking at a leading diagonal. Now again, this is not the only interpretation that would allow extensions, But below the $41.4, I would prefer that we would be looking for the wave 2 to be much more likely to unfold. And if we fail to reach the area of support in yellow, it would be a pity and we might need to still look for other structures, which once again are possible, but there is no reason to overwhelm the chart, to overwhelm you and the chart with all the possibilities that are here available to us, and we instead focus on what I consider to be the most probable outcomes. Now, within this structure, we are still able to form another low. We still have some room within this area to build a larger pattern, and we have been looking for at least an A, B, C pattern to form internally within this area, since within this initial push to the downside, we have formed a 5-wave pattern. That was strongly suggesting to us that after a 3-wave correction, we would be looking for at least another 5-wave move to the downside, which seems to be taking place at the moment. We have pushed nearly into the last level of resistance. It still stands at this point. We would still need to see a break above it for a stronger signal that a more substantial bottom would be in place. But based on how deep we have retraced within this push to the downside and the fact that this count still looks incomplete, I would prefer to form at least another low within this area, also breaking the previous swing low we have here, within one count or the other before looking for a bottom to be in place. So I would focus within a smaller time frame instead, and here within this structure, and let me even remove the larger time frame, we have broken the internal levels of support, which is a signal that yes, this structure is even more likely going to form the next wave to the downside. And at this point, I would consider this count to be the most likely outcome within this structure, where we have a 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And within this interpretation, we would have an area of resistance to track for such a wave 4 correction, and it goes all the way up to the $47.9. And only if we get a break above that would I really be able to disconsider this expectation for a 5-wave move to form within this area, where we might be able to even get a more direct breakout. Now, at this point, we have retraced in a 3-wave pattern into our 50% retracement, and we have already created a pretty strong reaction to the downside, where we can track an internal area of support, but nothing I would consider too substantial for continuation to higher prices. But there is a key aspect here, because if I am able to hold the current prices within this push to the upside, I might identify an initial 5-wave pattern. If we build such a structure, we would have another opportunity to look for even a position within this area. But what is more important, because this is within too small of a time frame for a very relevant position, what is more important is that we would be looking for a break of the area of resistance, even if it doesn't occur within this push to the upside, within a larger ABC structure, or potentially something even more bullish. But what is certain is that we would like to see the 61.8% retracement at the $44.6 broken for a signal that this structure is going to manage to extend in the next wave to the downside. At this point, all we have is a wick below this last level of support for such an interpretation, and it's really not enough to invalidate this structure, or let's say this scenario. But for now, there isn't much else to add. I suppose we could take a short look at the smaller time frame, and I suppose we could look at an internal level of resistance. Now, before we do that, it would be greatly appreciated that if you enjoy the video, if you enjoy our info, our opportunities we provide, that you leave a like, and if you enjoy our content in general, maybe even consider checking out our channel membership. Now, the area of resistance I am tracking for a potential initial 5-wave move to the downside would be here up to the 50% retracement. If we form the next wave to the downside within this area, we would instead have an initial 5-wave pattern to the downside that would suggest after a 3-wave correction, we would be looking for at least another 5-wave move to the downside. That would very likely complete our 5th wave within this area, because keep in mind, within this 5-wave pattern to the downside, we are tracking in this as a larger wave C. We are looking at an ending diagonal, meaning we only expect to build 3 waves within this structure. It doesn't need to be exactly within this area of an initial 5-wave pattern in this area. But this would actually strongly suggest that even after a relief rally, we would still prefer an extension to even lower prices in the follow-up internal wave C within this area. And for now, this is all I can really offer in terms of value within this structure. I believe this is plenty actually, and it clearly states that below the previous swing low in this area in this wave 4, we are looking for a more direct breakdown in this fifth wave, and above this last level of resistance, we are looking for a potential direct extension of the larger structure, but that could actually work out even within a push where we complete this structure to the downside. That is still strongly preferred that we complete this as a 5-wave pattern. And yes, the green interpretation still stands. The green area of support extends down to the $41.4 level, and if we form the next wave to the upside, I will look for even additional interpretations that would allow extensions, because at this point we have a full count within this wave 1 in yellow, and we can start looking for the larger area of support. But if we form another high, the story really changes and we would need to be more patient on this wave 2 correction. I would like the opportunity to get here into this wave 2 area of support as it stands right now, but I cannot guarantee that it will happen. And once again, the break below the $41.4 is a signal that this would have just become much more likely to actually play out. But for now, these are the levels, this is the trade setup. I hope you enjoyed the video, and if you did, don't forget to subscribe and let me know what else you want me to cover, and I'll do my best to do that in the days ahead. And until then, I hope you have a nice day, and I hope to see you in the next video. Bye bye.